Have you ever wondered why ancient Indian temples still breathe? Why even after thousands of years, their walls hum with something that feels alive? When you step inside one, the air changes. There is a vibration, calm that wraps around your thoughts and slows down your heartbeat. It isn't imagination, it's resonance. The ancients knew how to build with energy, what the modern world calls architecture. They called alignment. These temples were not only about worship, they were machines made of stone, geometry and sound, created to connect the human mind with the frequency of the cosmos. Every block of granite, every curve, every chant had a purpose. The ancients saw the universe as vibration, and they designed temples to tune human consciousness into that infinite rhythm. Modern science now agrees that everything vibrates: atoms, light, thought, even emotion. But thousands of years ago, the sages of India had already declared Nada Brahma. The universe is sound. They understood that creation itself was born from vibration. When they built temples, they weren't just making monuments. They were constructing resonant chambers where this cosmic vibration could be felt and amplified. Every temple followed a sacred geometric blueprint known as the Vastu Purusha Mandala, a precise energy grid of 64 squares, each corner corresponding to a specific frequency in the Earth's field, even without GPS, without any modern tools. They aligned their temples perfectly with the planet's magnetic north-south axis. This wasn't coincidence, it was mastery. When the structure of a temple aligns with the Earth's magnetic field, the building itself becomes a resonator. The stepping inside is like walking into an energy vortex where your body, the planet begin to synchronize. That is why, without understanding how, people feel calm the moment they enter. Their brainwaves slow, their breathing steadies, and their nervous system softens. The temple absorbs the Earth's magnetic flow and sends it upward through its structure like an antenna, creating a vertical current of energy that meets the sky. Ancient builders chose temple sites with care. They didn't just pick a scenic hilltop. They measured the planet's geomagnetic lines, what we now call Lee lines. Temples were always placed where the Earth's natural vibration was strongest. These were energy nodes, places where human consciousness could easily merge with the frequency of nature. Long before modern scientists began mapping electromagnetic fields, Indian Sthapatis, temple architects, already knew how to read them through intuition, sound and subtle instruments. They were engineers of the invisible. Inside the temple, sound became the key. Every mantra, every bell, every drumbeat was part of a design that turned vibration into transformation. When devotees chanted Om or Namah Shivaya, the sound waves struck the stone walls, reflecting and merging to create resonance. That resonance interacted with the geometry of the temple and produced standing waves, frequencies that could literally alter brain states. Some temples, like the Vitala temple at Hampi, were built with musical pillars that sing when tapped. Each pillar produces a different note, forming a natural scale. No electronics, no metal strings, only stone tuned by geometry. It was ancient acoustic science, a blend of physics and devotion. These chants and sounds weren't mere rituals, they were methods to tune the mind. As the voice of the devotee merged with the resonance of the temple, a feedback loop was created. The temple amplified the human vibration, and in return, the human amplified the temple. The result was heightened awareness. State modern science calls coherence. The ancient world coded awakening. At the heart of every temple lay the Garbhagriha, the innermost sanctum. This dark, quiet chamber wasn't meant only for an idol. It was a womb of energy. Its walls were made of granite, a piezoelectric stone that generates subtle electric currents when subjected to vibration. When mantras were chanted, the sound energy struck these walls, creating tiny pulses of electric charge that filled the space. The air inside became ionized, the atmosphere charged, and the body of anyone standing there responded. That feeling of energy, people speak about when entering a temple is not imagination, it's a physiological reaction to resonance and electromagnetism. Above the sanctum rose the Shikara, the temple tower crowned with the copper kalash. Copper is a powerful conductor of energy. It captures the Earth's magnetic flow and channels it upward. Together, the granite base and copper top create a continuous energy circuit from Earth to sky. The temple becomes a living column of vibration, connecting the two realms. When a devotee enters barefoot, the skin directly contacts the earth, completing the human circuit with the structure. Each step inside becomes grounding and awakening at once. The ringing of the temple bell isn't just to announce arrival, it's to align the brain. The metal mixture used to cast ancient bells, copper, tin, zinc, and mercury, produces a tone that lingers for several seconds between 2 kHz and 4 kHz, same range that stimulates alpha brain waves. Alpha waves are the frequency of calm focus and meditative awareness. When the bell rings, it gently pushes the mind into that state, preparing it for prayer or meditation. Science can now measure this, but the ancients knew it through experience. They didn't need instruments. They had intuition refined through centuries. Even the act of walking clockwise around the temple, the parikrama, was part of the energy design. Moving clockwise keeps the heart closer to the sanctum, ensuring that the body's biomagnetic field aligns with the magnetic flow of the temple. It creates coherence between human energy and the earth's vibration. What looks like simple devotion is actually a precise process of synchronization. Everything inside a temple, the day of flame, the sound of the conch, the fragrance of incense contributes to a shift in frequency. Fire releases negative ions, purifying the air. The rhythmic patterns of chants guide breathing. The scent of sandalwood relaxes the nervous system. Together, they form a multisensory field of healing. Ancient India had already discovered sound therapy, aromatherapy, and frequency healing long before the words existed. Temples were their laboratories. When modern people visit temples for selfies or sightseeing, a game against they often miss the essence. The ancients never went there for spectacle, they went for alignment. They used the temple as a frequency tuner, a place to recharge their mind and body. Spending time in a high energy zone synchronized their internal rhythm with the earth, reducing anxiety, anger, and confusion naturally. Each city in ancient India was built around one temple that served as its energy nucleus, radiating coherence outward. That's why towns flourished around temples, not for commerce, but for consciousness. Today, science rediscovers fragments of that truth. We use meditation apps, binaural beats, and sound baths to simulate what the ancients achieved naturally. Where we rely on electronics, they relied on geometry, stone, and copper. Thousands of years ago, they had already built spaces that could influence human brainwave, not through chemicals or technology, but through sacred vibration. They knew that consciousness isn't limited to the mind, it resonates through matter. That is why the temple was never just architecture. It was a mirror of the cosmos, a microcosm of the universe itself. Every ratio in its design reflected universal constants. The golden ratio, Fibonacci spiral, the balance of masculine and feminine energy represented by the Sri Yantra. This 9 triangle pattern carved into walls and floors is a geometric map of creation. When projected in 3 dimensions, it forms an energy pyramid that harmonizes frequencies. The same ratios appear in seashells, galaxies, and human DNA. By meditating within this geometry, the devotee aligned with the structure of existence itself. Temples weren't symbols of religion. They were instruments of remembrance, reminders of the divine pattern running through all life. The ancients said, the temple is alive. They meant it literally. Geometry breathes, the stone vibrates, and when human presence activates it through chant and devotion, the temple awakens. But somewhere along the way, that sacred understanding was forgotten. When foreign powers arrived, they looked at these temples and saw only superstition. The British labeled this ancient science as primitive way. They studied temple architecture, but never its energy, logic. They documented the carvings but ignored the resonance. Slowly, generations began to believe that temples were only places to pray, not machines of consciousness. The science was buried beneath layers of ritual, and the language of vibration was silenced. Yet energy cannot be destroyed, it only waits to be remembered. The truth is that every ritual, every sound, Every step inside a temple had a purpose. The ancients didn't build randomly, they built systems of alignment. Even the timing of Aarti, morning and evening, was chosen for cosmic reasons. At sunrise and sunset, the Earth's electromagnetic field undergoes a subtle shift. Performing rituals at that precise moment allowed the human body to tune into that change, synchronizing its internal clock with the planet's rhythm. Modern scientists call it circadian alignment. The ancients lived it. The temple was also designed as a balance of the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. The structure grounded the body through stone, cleansed the senses with water, energized through fire, cooled the mind with air, and expanded awareness through open space. Every day, every sound, every architectural line was a deliberate tool to balance these forces within. That's why one left the temple feeling lighter, clearer, and calm, because the energy field around the body had been tuned back to harmony. When industrial architecture replaced sacred design, something inside humanity shifted. We moved into buildings of concrete and steel that blocked natural magnetism. Our spaces stopped resonating with the earth and our minds lost their rhythm. Anxiety became normal, peace became rare. The ancients had already solved this. Their architecture wasn't about aesthetics, it was about vibration. Vastu Shastra was not superstition, it was vibrational engineering. Taught how to build spaces that breathe, spaces that heal. This wisdom wasn't limited to India. Across South and Southeast Asia, the same principles echo. The pagodas of Nepal, the temples of Cambodia's Angkor Wat, the shrines of Sri Lanka all share the same geometric code. The blueprint of energy and sound traveled with civilization, not as religion but as consciousness. The farther it spread, the more it adapted, but its core remained the same: alignment between man, earth, and the cosmos. The most astonishing examples, like the Kailasa temple at Ellora, carved from a single rock, defy modern logic. Even with today's machines, replicating it would be nearly impossible. The precision, the scale, and the acoustic perfections suggest knowledge of sound-based engineering. Sound can cut stone through vibration resonance, something modern experiments are only beginning to discover. Imagine thousands of years ago, people may have shaped rock using the same principles of frequency that scientists are now testing with lasers. So when someone says ancient Indian science was advanced, it's not exaggeration, it's truth. Colonization didn't just take land, it took memory. The mental colonization that followed made us doubt our own heritage. Western scholars like Max Muller and James Ferguson studied temples as art, never as energy systems. By dismissing them as myths, they silenced one of the oldest scientific languages of the earth, the language of vibration. Yet today, modern research slowly validates what those sages already knew. Quantum physics now says everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. Nikola Tesla echoed the same thought centuries later. Neuroscience now shows that sound, geometry, and intention can alter human emotion and brain chemistry. What we call sound healing and frequency therapy today are just modern imitations of what temples achieved naturally. Without electricity, without machines, without noise. The ancients never separated science from spirit. For them, spirituality was experiential physics. When you chant a mantra, you generate a frequency. When you light a lamp, you alter the balance of ions in the air. When you walk barefoot on stone, you connect your nervous system directly with the earth. Every act was designed to synchronize body, mind, and space. What we call meditation today was simply living in harmony back then. Look around now. The world is full of information but empty of peace. We know how to build machines but not how to build consciousness. The ancients did both. Temples were not information centers, they were transformation centers. They didn't give you knowledge, they tuned your energy so you could remember what you already were. Fragments of the same cosmic vibration that built galaxies. When a devotee stood before the deity in the Garbhagriha, he wasn't praying to a statue. He was standing inside a frequency chamber, aligning himself with the universe's heartbeat. That's why the word darshan means not just a seed, not just experience. The idol was a focal point, often made of metals or alloys that resonated with magnetic energy. The moment of darshan was the merging of two frequencies, the seeker and the source. That experience was the real worship. The sages said, Ham Brahmasmi, I am, that divine vibration. They didn't mean arrogance, they meant realization. The temple was built to help you feel that truth. It reminded every visitor that the same energy vibrating in the stars vibrates in your heartbeat. When you step inside, chant and stand still, you become part of that cosmic equation. You are not separate, you are resonance embodied. The tragedy is that we forgot. Colonial education taught us equations but not equilibrium. It produced scientists but not seekers. We learned how to dissect matter but forgot how to feel energy. We became prouder knowing facts, yet blind to experience. That is why even today, humanity builds higher towers but feels lower inside. The ancients built spaces that lifted the soul, not just the skyline. Still, the memory of that wisdom hasn't died. It lives in your body, in your DNA, in the subtle shiver you feel when you hear temple bells or mantras echo in the distance. That goosebump is recognition, your energy remembering its original frequency. You may not know the mantra's meaning, but your cells understand its sound, energy knows its own. The temple was never external, it was a mirror showing your inner structure. The human body itself is a temple. The heart is the Garbhagriha, the core where divine vibration resides. The spine is the Shikara, the vertical tower carrying energy upward. Your breath is the bell, your thoughts are the mantras, and your awareness is the flame. When these align, you become the living temple the ancients spoke of. They said, Dio Devalaya Prokta. The body is the temple of God. They weren't speaking in poetry, they were describing energetic reality. To experience that truth, one doesn't need rituals, only stillness. When you stand quietly inside a temple or under the open sky and simply feel the vibration in the air, you touch that same frequency that shaped the universe. That's why real spirituality was never about belief, it was about experience. It wasn't about worshipping a god out there, but realizing the god in here. So today, when people talk about sound baths, resonance therapy, or vibrational healing, they're unknowingly echoing the technology of ancient temples. The only difference is that temples offered it freely through renaissance and devotion, while modern systems sell it as luxury. The blueprint hasn't changed, only our understanding has. So the next time you pass a temple, stop for a moment. Don't just look at its carvings, feel its pulse. Stand still, close your eyes and breathe. Listen to the silence between the bells. In that silence, there is movement, a vibration calling you home. That's not mythology. That's physics in spirit, that's energy remembering itself. The stones may seem still, but they're singing. The air might seem quiet, but it hums with timeless memory. The walls may look ancient, but they're alive because temples were never about the past. They are reminders of what you are, made of sea consciousness, and light. Our ancestors carved that truth into stone so that even if generations forgot the words, the vibration would remain. And it has every chant that rises, every bell that rings, every step you take inside that sacred geometry is the universe whisperal. You are not separate from me. That is the real science of temples, not a theory, not a belief, but a living resonance. The temple is a device, a teacher, a mirror. It doesn't demand faith, it invites awareness. Its energy is not locked in stone. It flows through your every breath, waiting for recognition. So when someone says a temple is just a place of worship, smile and remember what you now know. The temple is science carved in stone, a design so perfect that it turns devotion into vibration, sound into consciousness, and the human being into light. And maybe one day when the world is ready to listen again, the stones will teach us what our ancestors already knew. The universe itself is not a machine, it is a song and you are its echo.